Warning: some viewers may find the following content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Medic Monday. Today we got something a little different for you. If you've been following the last couple Medic Mondays we've had, we've been having all sorts of trouble. This is not actually related to that at all. I'm still active duty. I work every third day, which means I work every third Monday. So it's actually impossible for me to be in the studio every single Monday, unfortunately. So we're hoping to do some pre-recorded stuff before hand and bring in guests, and we'll still try to react and do some articles and talk politics a little bit for you guys. But this is a pre-record, so might see some editing, might see something a little different. But thank you so much for tuning in on our Medic Monday, and we're gonna get things going. So. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. So that's the biggest way to support the channel. Share. All you got to do is go and click the share button, and it really helps us out a lot. The show is still sponsored by us, and we still have those products coming. We've been a little delayed. I'm actually staring at it right now. You guys probably can't see it, right, Brent? Nope, they can't see it. So it's super cool. It's coming very, very soon. We've partnered up with Audi Gear. They have a really, really good brand recognition. They make really quality gear. I'm really excited to release this stuff. So the show is sponsored by us. Very, very soon you will be able to go buy this stuff, and we'll let you know when it is, whenever it's ready. But today I have a guest with me. His name is Vincent. I met him at the gym. He is a tall man, and why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit. Yep, can't talk today. A little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Well, I'm a former Staff Sergeant in the United States Army, newly retired. I retired in January of 21. At the moment, I am a stay-at-home dad and a student. While I served in the Army, I was a 13 Bravo, which is a field artillery crew member. And from there, I transitioned to the IT world, where I was certified as a information technology specialist. I also served 4 years as a special operations soldier. And just before I retired, I was a jungle survival instructor, where I basically taught people how to survive from a primitive standpoint. Basically, all of the stuff that you would normally see in the old school Rambo's movies from the 80s and 90s. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I would teach. So if you run out of ammo and you're stuck in a Panamanian jungle, you'd still be okay.
Wow. I had no idea you were a survival instructor.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
If you were to see my backyard right now, I have several primitive rabbit traps set up.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you caught anything?
2 rabbits, 4 possums, and several snakes.
No way.
Yeah. My kids love it.
Do you eat the rabbits?
No, my daughter won't let me.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
My daughter won't let me.
Rabbits are too cute. You got to eat like ugly animals.
What?
Right.
I can't, I don't think that my wife will allow me to eat any of the possums.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
Yeah, but I've eaten throughout my military time, mainly as a survival instructor. I've been honored to go all over the world to places like Gabon, Africa, and to train with those guys out in Malaysia. And their military, that's when they go to the field to train, that's how they eat. They look up in the trees and they shoot something. Once it hits the ground, that's it. That squad is going to eat for the remainder of the night. So to sit down and see somebody shoot a monkey, and then that monkey falls, and once you remove all the hair off that thing, it legit looks like a human being just open roasting on a fire. Yeah, it's
that's strange. Did you eat any of it?
Yeah, it's fairly good.
Is it really?
It's really
no
good.
Way.
It's really good. You wouldn't think that it is, but it kind of is.
Like, what's is there anything you can compare it to, or is it more like pork or chicken or what, or like beef?
No, I'd say it's more so like, if I just from the standard American diet, chicken, beef, or fish, I'd say it's more like pork. But obviously it's gamey because it's more muscular and less fatty. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like a dirty kind of tasting meat. It's It's similar to pork, but I kind of can't describe it. It's not gritty, but
Okay.
it still tastes dirty. If that makes sense.
I don't know. That's crazy. I was watching Steve Rennell. Do you ever watch Meat Eater? You know that show?
I've probably seen it once or twice.
Yeah, so Meat Eater is Steve Rennell. He just goes out and hunts things. Like it's not like it necessarily exotic. Like he just goes elk hunting or whatever. He's just cool personality.
Okay.
He had a show on Netflix. And then he stopped his Netflix thing and he started doing his own thing. Super cool show, but he goes into the Amazon and they go hunt some kind of fish. I forgot what it was. Some kind of fish that they were doing or whatever. And he's in with like a tribe that has no technology, like they barely wear clothes or whatever, and he's going out fishing with these guys. And he's like, "Well, why don't you guys just like? There's so many monkeys. Why don't you guys eat monkeys?" And they like didn't know. Like a lot of times, like he would ask questions, they wouldn't know what to say. Like so, they just wouldn't answer. They just look at him and like smile and like whatever. But to them, it's like they're like that's like the equivalent of somebody being like, "Oh, you guys need food. Like there's some cats. Why don't you guys eat cats?" And there's no explanation of why we don't.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. We just don't. Well, why not?
If you ever have that, as weird as it sounds, beautifully weird. If you ever have the opportunity to leave the U.S. and don't go to any kind of restaurant at a hotel that you're staying in, no resort or stuff like that, just walk the streets. And whatever
That makes me nervous.
If you walk the streets in any, not to say a third world country, but anywhere outside of the US, you will see some of the weirdest food you've ever seen in your life. You know, I remember, years back in China, just walking through the meat market in China. It is by far the scariest thing that you will ever see in your life because you see racks and shelves and buckets and containers and it's just parts.
Yeah.
But then when you look off to the side, it's almost like a video game. You know, you walk into the butcher shop where you see a head from a cow and then the body of that cow laid out on a table. And then you look to the left of that table, it just might be a rat's head and then the body of that rat and then a squirrel and then spiders and various eels and all kind of stuff that the standard American diet would never even consider putting that on a plate. And this is a norm in other countries.
Yeah. That's so strange to me. Like, I don't know. So like my wife grew up overseas. So she grew up Saudi Arabia and
Yeah.
she's told me about some stuff like scorpions and stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't wrap my head around eating stuff like that.
You'd be surprised.
Because it's also like animals you don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like, in America, they eat like the jokes, you know, like which I know Chinese people do eat dogs, but like it's not like, they eat dogs. They're eating an animal that I couldn't even tell you what that animal is because it doesn't exist here. Like, I don't know if it's good.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of animal it is.
Well, the one of the things about being a survival instructor that I've learned is that we on this side of the world, we don't eat, like you said, we don't eat dog.
Mm-hmm.
But over in South Korea, they legit have dog farms.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you instead of eating bulgogi, which is beef, if you ever hear somebody say, "Do you want kegogi?" Kegogi is dog. And I'll be the first American to tell you dog is delicious.
What?
You
ate a dog?
Yes. I've eaten several of them.
No
dog
way.
is delicious. I didn't see the process, but I have literally ran past dog farms where you see 13 to almost 1,500 dogs out on leashes in their little kennels and stuff. And at the end of the day, that 13 to 1,500 gets cut down to almost 800. So, you know, they process them things up and you walk through the street markets and they'll tell you kegogi is beef. Bulgogi is beef, kegogi is dog, and XYZ is squirrel, blah, blah, blah is, you know, whatever, crickets and roaches and all this other kind of weird stuff.
No insects.
But the one thing that I did learn about eating when you're in a third world country, we're all human beings. If somebody in that country is eating whatever, and you're hungry, by all means, chow down.
Yeah.
and it looks and seems weird because you have a handful of worms and some dirty stagnant water that they might put 4 or 5 leaves in. Those 4 or 5 leaves, from however nature works, it cleans that water, and then you just take it all in and you're perfectly fine. You don't get no kind of indigestion, no stomach ulcers, or nothing bad going on in your guts. It's 100% natural, and it's filling, and most of it is actually pretty good.
Yeah. I wonder if you saw the process though of the dogs. If you
No.
would want to, you'd probably be like, because here's the thing: is like for me, it's like there's a certain level of intelligence where I think we as people like draw the line. Because like if you talk to like vegan people that are crazy about like animal life and stuff like that, like I respect life, but I don't, like some animals are food. Like there's a certain intelligence level of like my dog is not the same as like a deer. Like
What?
My dog knows me.
I would argue that.
What? Really?
Yeah, yeah. The only reason why I would argue that is because, again, through the military, I've been privileged to travel all over the world, and going to a survival school in Australia, they literally turn you into a homeless person for like 4 days. So you don't have any weapons. You don't have weapons, ammos, knives, or nothing like that. You're in your regular clothes, but you have to survive on the streets without shelter. You don't have your wallet. You don't have a debit card or, cash in your pocket. Whatever you do to eat, whatever you do to get, shelter and all that kind of stuff, that is 100% on you. But the ultimate goal is to simply survive both in a tropical environment and in an urban environment.
Yeah.
And the tropical environment really sucks because they tell you everything in Australia is trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't lean up against a tree because they have, there's a tree out there called, the sap that comes out the tree that always running out the tree. It's called dragon's blood. And when you touch it, the moment you touch it, you can't touch anything else. Like if you touch that tree without gloves on your hands, then that sap is instantly going to turn into like almost flesh-eating black bacteria. So if you touch that and you start walking, 3 to 5 minutes later, your skin might start tingling. And the average person, you rub your hands or, you rub your pants or something, that transfers from your hands to your pants. And then you might wipe, just like you just did, you wipe your face. And when you wipe your face, you just transfer that flesh-eating stuff to your face. And then it just keeps going and going and going. And then they also have a bush called Well, I don't know the actual term for it, but they dubbed it, the Australian soldiers dubbed it as wait a while bush, because the thorns on it are like almost nails. And when it grabs you, you're going to wait a while.
Yeah.
And historically speaking, those bushes, they are carnivorous because the sheep farmers or goat farmers, when they let their stock to go out and do what they do, that thing would grab 1 or 2 of those sheep or goats and stuff and never let them go. So that animal literally dies right there from starvation, dehydration, and then it feeds that plant so it can continue to grow.
So it's like a giant Venus flytrap, but like viney and thorny?
Yes. Just imagine just a rose bush with just the thorns, but extend those thorns almost 2 to 3 inches.
Oh, no.
And then let the vines actually be vines instead of the thorns, instead of the rose bush being like a stick.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's like this cord. It's a legit vine that when you walk and you kick it, it flips up in the air and it grabs your pants. And then if you don't have a knife or something to legit cut it off, you're just there for quite some time.
That is, it's funny to think like when military operations, even historically, you go and I think we have an idea of what it's going to be like in our head. Like people warn you like, oh, it's going to be hot. But then you get there and you're like, you don't realize how hot is until you feel it.
Yes. You being a firefighter, you've been in and out of burning buildings and stuff. That is fire.
Yeah.
When the first time I went to Iraq, experiencing that heat, we used to make tea outside There's no need to boil water or anything like that to put the tea bags in. You take a regular water bottle, leave it outside, sitting on the ground with your tea bags and your sugar and all that kind of stuff in it. Put that outside at 6:30 in the morning. By 8 o'clock, when the sun is all the way up, your tea is ready, and that bottle is like scorching hot. So it gets hot enough to where you can damn near cook on your Humvee.
Yeah. I've heard of people frying eggs on their
Yeah. At
Humvee.
at like 8 o'clock in the morning, it's already 95 to close to 100 degrees. And by the time lunchtime comes around, 11, 12 o'clock, excuse me, it's at least 104.
That's like, it's just crazy. And two, like other environmental factors, like they may say like, and somebody that's used to dry heat may come to like somewhere that's very humid. Like that's what like the people in like Vietnam talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, oh yeah, it's like 100 degrees. Oh yeah, that's really hot. We gotta be careful. And then you get there and you have to deal with the humidity and animals that you don't know about, carnivorous vines that you don't know about. Like, and that was like basically what took down Napoleon Bonaparte's army was them going into Russia, being like, "Yep, we're ready to conquer the world." Oh yeah, it's cold. It's going to be cold. We know it's going to be cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get there, and like half the army dies.
Yeah,
from lead poisoning from the uniforms, and then just cold, like disease, just wiped out their army, and then like you just don't know.
The two things that I told my wife in reference to the weather, I would never complain about the heat because I've been to Iraq. Like over here in the U.S. It doesn't matter where I go. I'll never complain about the heat because Iraq heat is a way different kind of heat.
Yep.
And I'll never complain about the cold because when I was stationed in Korea, the average temperature during the winter was like 9 degrees. But the only difference is there's no snow and it's just dry. So I don't know if you've ever been in a dry cold before where there's a constant breeze. That's it literally hurts you to the bone. Yeah. You step outside and you don't have on the proper gear, you will literally stop in your tracks and your brain shuts off and you're like you don't want to do anything.
That's a legit response. It's like a legit hypothermic response that I experienced. I was in Alaska for a few months for work. And I was up there from October to December, or it was like end of August to December. So I got to experience, I'm in a t-shirt, and then I got to experience you might die if you're out. Like on the news, they're like, do not be out for more than 15 minutes.
Yes.
You will get frostbite. And I was like, my little Georgia boy winter clothes were not cutting it. I had to go buy, I went to some random, and everybody up there that lives up there knows.
Yeah.
Like you talk to the average citizen up there, you think you're talking to a survival instructor. They're like, okay, this is what you need. You need wool socks. You need these boots. You need like this coat. Make sure that you layer properly. This is what your layers need to look like. And these are just the people walking around grocery shopping at Walmart.
Laughing
at me.
In the Army, when you do go to Korea, when you go to what's called CIF, Central Issue Facility, they give you what's called the Mickey Mouse gloves and boots. And that's to prevent your hands and feet from getting frostbite or frost nip. And the gloves are like legit almost 4 inches thick. And then the shoes, they have added padding on the heel. The sole is almost 2.5 inches thick, and it's like legit hard rubber. Yeah. And they have what's called the Panama sole. So it's rubber, then some kind of insulated foam, and then a small block of steel in the center of it. And then there's another inch or so of rubber on top of it. Jeez. But then right at the toe, where your toes are, there's how the actual Mickey Mouse boots look, how they're it's like a fist sitting at the top of the foot. Yeah. Those are the kind of shoes that they give you. So you walking around like a clown all day, every day, but it's only during the wintertime.
I didn't know Korea was cold.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't know what I thought the weather was like in Korea, honestly, but it's cold, I guess.
Yeah,
That's funny.
It is freezing over there. I can imagine what they're going through now, like the new generation of soldier that's in the military. Like most of them don't want to do anything, and to be told what you can and cannot do and will not go and all that kind of stuff, to tell somebody we have to do what's called stay dress right dress, meaning if the uniform for the day is for everybody to put on their snivel gear, you know, all of their cold weather gear, and you come out and you don't have your gloves on, well, now we got to be uniform. Everybody take your gloves off. So because you messed up, everybody else has to suffer.
That's in the fire department too.
So okay.
So like you get in your morning formation.
Yeah.
Not like once you're in the field. This is recruit school stuff. This is like whatever, but same thing. It's like you would go and you'd have like a class leader, like a squad leader.
Yeah.
They come up and be like, hey, man, I was in a rush to get out of the house. I forgot my rope or whatever it is. And they're like, everybody take off your ropes and go, you know, whatever. And you learn quick because you will get smoked.
Yes.
They will smoke you if you're not in uniform. It's a whole different thing.
Well, that's one thing that they don't do in the military anymore.
Really?
Well, at least not in the Army. They can't do what's called smoking a soldier anymore.
Is that what they call it in the military too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when you're inside of a building or inside of what you would normally call your bay, your living quarters, there's normally 30 to 50 servicemen and women in one sleeping area. And when somebody messes up or the drill sergeants, drill instructors decides to smoke them or give them corrective training, they literally work you until the windows start sweating and the steam starts to come off the wall. That's where that term "smoking a soldier" comes from.
Okay.
You know, so
I didn't know it was like a fire, like smoke. Obviously, it translates to the fire department. So
yeah,
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's predominantly where that comes from. Like
Okay.
you literally make the steam come off of your physical body because they're working you just that hard.
Gotcha.
And you don't stop until, well, I know most drill instructors 15, 20 years ago, they don't stop until they get that one person like damn near on the verge of just about ready to pass out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've ever tried to do 200 jumping jacks in one time and then go into like 50 to 100 air squats and then go right back to jumping jacks. Your legs don't cooperate with you.
No. No, and that big problem in the fire department with that type of stuff was like you're wearing 60 pounds of gear.
Yeah.
And then what we were talking about too, like you think like, oh wait, like so whenever I was training for it, like before I started, I would put on a weight vest and do the things like, okay, and I got good like in a weight vest. Your body is not prepared for zero. You have zero skin showing because of fire. Like you can't have a little bit of skin showing, and everything is sealed. So you are in 100% sealed off clothing, sweating like that.
You're cooking yourself.
And none of the heat is escaping.
Yeah.
That's what people don't realize. So it's not even that the fire is there or whatever it is. It's you have all this gear on and you have to, you can get acclimated. Like you see some of these firefighters and you're like, how's this like fat dude, you know, like functioning, and he's accustomed to it. You get on a fire scene and this overweight firefighter that's been eating ribs, but he's been fighting fire for 20 years, dude, he will outwork the youngest in shape muscular guy. It is unreal. It's unreal.
That is by far one of my biggest pet peeves about having, mainly men having the jobs of protection. Whether you're in the military, you're a cop, you're a firefighter, whatever the case may be, if it's your job to protect somebody else from whatever, you know, danger that's in the area.
Yeah.
My personal issue is you should not be overweight.
Yeah.
Because you have to, you not only have to carry your weight, you have to carry somebody else's weight if they go down and deal with all of the extra stuff that you have to carry on yourself and then them and all of their gear and whatever the case may be. It's like you can't, in my mind, you can't effectively do your job the way it's supposed to be done because you have so much extra going on.
Yep.
You know, and it that gets under my skin.
It does me too. And some of these guys, don't get me wrong, there are some dudes that are just out of shape and they shouldn't be. But there's some guys that you look at that you think are out of shape, and then you go to work with them. And you're like, what? How? Where did this come? I thought the secret thoughts in my head of like when I see this guy, I'm like, okay, this is like some old retired guy that they threw into training because he might be about to retire, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we go through our rotations and stuff, and this guy, like, I'll go through one rotation, and I come out gassed. I'm like ripping my gear off, sweating, like trying to catch my breath, chugging water, and
Yeah.
I'm in shape. And he's just like, doesn't even take his stuff off. He's just looking. He's like, you guys done? All right, let's go. Like his water break is a smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back in. And he goes in with every squad because he's training them.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody went down. He's dragging them out
Yeah.
all day for weeks. And I'm just like, I don't even understand how he's overweight, but he's working. I don't get it.
I was humbled that way once. And this was almost 10 years ago. I was stationed in Hawaii. When I first got there, my battle buddy, my teammate, I would never forget this guy. His name was Alvin Rodriguez. Weird guy, only because he was 6'5", 320 pounds, but he was Puerto Rican and Russian.
Oh, that's weird.
So weird combination.
Yeah.
But to see a Puerto Rican guy he spoke fluent Russian, fluent Spanish, fluent English, and several other languages. He should have never been a combat soldier, because his intellect was far beyond the basics of being a combat soldier. And this guy, I want to say like the second day that I was there when I reported in, he was like, "Hey Matt, we're going on a run. How's your PT?" And I was like, "Well, last PT test I took, I think I got maybe a 291, 292, and the best score that you can get is a 300." So I'm like, if I got a 292, I'm good. I'm okay. He was like, "All right, well, me and you, we're gonna run to whatever mountain." I'm like, all right, cool. How far is that? Nah, don't worry about it. And normally when you hear that, it's gonna be at least 6 miles. This guy at 6'5", 300 plus pounds, we ran almost 8 miles. We ran a 8.5 minute mile for those almost 8 miles. And then the last one, he actually started to get faster. So I'm like, after mile number 4, according to the military, I know how to maintain an 8-minute mile for 4 miles so that way I can run under 36 minutes or faster if I needed to. So I know my cardio is dialed in. But this guy was able to maintain an 8-minute mile for almost 8 miles. And then he consistently got faster the longer we went.
Jeez.
So I'm like, you are by far the standard on how a big guy should carry himself, But it was weird just to see somebody that big move the way that he was able to move.
Yeah, that's wild. I kind of want to jump to something. I had a couple thoughts that came up when you were talking about like the new generation of soldier and stuff like that. And it's kind of going to tie into this news article that we've got up because the number one news story in America right now is the border. I mean, it's hard to say that because we every day I feel like we have a new number one news story, whether it's bombing or we just bombed Yemen. So we've got the Yemen bombings. We've still got war in Ukraine and Russia, which is not resolved. We're just not really talking about it anymore.
Because there's something else that's shinier on the table.
Yes, and I can tell you for a fact that we're still sending some. I can't go into detail about it here because I don't know what's confidential or not, and some of it involves my products, which you see here. Yeah. So we can talk about it, but the point will still get across. I was talking to one of the suppliers that supplies some of this stuff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you guys are ordering bulk. Like how many units you guys thinking?" I'm like, "Oh, we're ordering a lot, 1,000 units." And he's like, "Okay, the DoD just ordered 200,000." So I was like, "Oh," and guess what? 40,000 of those get packed up in a nice little box and delivered on Ukraine's doorstep. Yeah. So I know for a fact that there's still conflict going on all over there, but it's starting to, it almost gets to be too much to like keep up with. And for me, I'm a hyper compartmentalized person. And it's like, if there's one thing to focus on, it's like, okay, cool. And I'll learn what I need to learn or do what I need to do. But when everything is going on, I tend to just kind of suck back in. I'm like, okay, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my job right now? How does this affect my family? Yeah. And like the border crisis is one of those things that I can see is going to be right on the forefront of affecting my job directly as somebody
Yeah.
involved in public safety. And the thought just kicked up of like you were saying, the new generation of soldier, they don't want to do anything. How do you think that the newer generation of soldier is going to handle a crisis here in America? And I'm not just necessarily speaking about the border patrol. I'm talking
Yeah.
about like any type of crisis, you know?
Potential invasion.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I strongly feel as though this generation, and this is coming from an old soldier that was trained by older soldiers, you know, I don't think that this generation is going to make it.
Yeah.
And I say that because, for one, the numbers going into the military has been the worst it's been in almost the last decade. So the military is having extreme issues with people just simply going in. And right now, I want to say that the Army is down almost 40 plus thousand servicemen and women. The Marines are down probably 20,000. Air Force and Navy, they don't really have too many issues because it's the Air Force and Navy. But
you're right.
But the Army and Marines, they're having difficulty not only getting people in, but retaining the ones that they do have. And several years ago, when COVID was going on, they got rid of almost 20% of the fight. Well, the Army got rid of almost 15 to 20% of its fighting force because they gave the service members an option. Either you can take the vaccine or we can go ahead and process you out.
Yeah.
So now they're fighting that fight on how do we get those same people that we told to get out, how do we get them back? You know, what additional incentives can we give them in order for them to change their mind to come back in? But outside of that, the generation that's in right now, this is Gen Z. And Gen Z, they don't too much want to do nothing.
Yeah.
They want everything handed to them. And right now, I coach kids. So me dealing with these kids now, legit being able to see that kind of mentality firsthand. And I'm with 30, 40 kids every other day. So all between the ages of 14 and 18. So boys and girls, all walks of life. And I'm talking to these kids on how they feel about school, working a job, whether it's part-time or even full-time once they do get out of school, what they plan on doing afterwards. Not one has ever mentioned the military.
Yeah.
And when I bring up the military, you know, with my background, they're like, oh yeah, that was what y'all did. We not going into military. Whatever's going on in the world, that's not our issue.
Yeah.
All I want to do is my TikTok and my YouTube and my dances and videos and that's it. And if it doesn't pertain to social media or being an entrepreneur, they want absolutely nothing to do with it.
Yep.
And even the ones that would love to go into the military, they fit one of two categories. Is either they're too, I don't want to say stupid, they're not intellectually sound to go into the military.
Too stupid.
And the other half are overweight.
Yeah.
You know, and even still, the Army has kind of combated that with, even if you are overweight, you can still come in, we'll give you a waiver.
Yeah.
And if you sign a 2-year contract, you can stay over here in what they dubbed as fat camp for up to 2 years. You know, well, I don't know if it's actually that long, but you can, the basic training is 13 weeks. And then from those 13 weeks, you transition over to AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training. And that's where you learn the basics behind your job.
Yeah.
And you get shipped out and you go to whatever duty station they're going to send you to. Now, while you're in basic training and in AIT, you have to pass the fitness test. And if you don't pass the fitness test, they put you back into the next cycle that's coming through, and you do the same thing all over again with them until you pass that fitness test. Well, if you fail it twice, now they send you to another state, to another organization, and you stay there. And you go see a dietitian, you go see a nutritionist, you get put on a legit program to see if you can not only lose the weight, to see if you can get into shape and pass the fitness test. Well, if you learn how to work the system, which most of these kids do,
government work.
Exactly. You stay in this fat camp throughout the duration of your 2-year contract. And then once you get out of the military, because you've honored your contract, you go to the VA, you can claim a disability saying that you got a thyroid problem because you can't lose weight and you fat. And now you're receiving disability for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, it's as an individual trying to work the system, you're winning because you get a government check for the rest of your life. And technically you earned it because you signed your name on a contract, but you legit worked the system because you just simply didn't want to get in shape. You couldn't put down the fried chicken and pizza and just eat a bowl of broccoli or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's a perfect storm of things. I do agree that people people today just don't want to do things. I've seen it in public safety. It's weird to think that I'm almost an older generation of firefighter, but I do see a difference because now I'm coming in and there are kids that are coming in that are 12 years younger than me.
Yeah.
Just starting. And I feel like I still feel like I'm like in the thick of it. Like I don't feel like I'm not an older guy. There's older people in there, but it's like I see a huge difference. And I've had people even say things like to officers, like they'll come in and the officer will be like, "Hey, do whatever," and they're like, "Oh, whatever," blah blah blah. I'm just like,
yeah,
you just said that to an officer, and then nothing happened, because they can't, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that is some of it. I think one of it, another thing is that kids today, people today in general, don't believe in anything anymore. Like there's not really there's threats all over the world, but there's not really a threat. Like it's not like, hey guys, we all need to go serve our country because if not, Hitler's going to take us over. He's taken over the whole world.
Yeah.
And you don't have those maps with like the fire growing with the Nazi swastika or whatever.
Constantly spreading.
There's like, we got to go kill this guy. And it was like, all right, let's go kill some Germans. And kids would lie about their age to get into the military.
Yes.
They would commit suicide if they were
denied. Yeah.
And it was like, this is my duty. And now I think maybe we saw a little bit of resurgence after that because of 9/11. And everybody had this sense of duty of like, man, like we got to go get this guy. Then we found out it was basically a lie. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Wait a second. This is the guy that terrorized us. Why are we in 10 other countries? And then I think, so part of it is we just don't believe anything anymore. Nobody believes in the war in Ukraine. You're going to ship me. I want to sign up so you can ship me out to Ukraine to fight Russians.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to ship me to, the Middle East again, where we just conquered like all this land and took it over and set stuff up and then just withdrew and they took it back and now you want me to go back?
Yeah.
So I think that's the second part of it. And I think the third part of it is we have been generically peaceful for so long that there hasn't been a need to fight.
You took the words right out of my mouth. There's no need to be patriotic anymore.
Yeah.
There's no more love for country. A lot of Americans nowadays, this younger generation, they don't necessarily know what it's like to struggle.
Right.
And not to say that struggling is a good thing, it's a bad thing, but to an extent, you always want to have some kind of good stress put on you. When you go to the gym and you work out, that's good stress being put on the body. It literally makes you bigger, stronger, faster.
Yeah.
And if you are going through depression, on the other side of depression, it makes you mentally and emotionally stronger than you were the previous day.
You can clinically cure depression with working out. Clinically.
Yes.
Like you are giving your body and your mind literal drugs that your body has in itself.
Yes, your body will produce it by its own itself.
Pulling it out internally and injecting it into yourself.
Yes.
And it cures depression.
Yes.
This is not like...
That is the definition of physical therapy.
Yes, it's crazy to me that the amount of mental problems we have. That I have seen a resurgence of working out. It does seem to be like starting to get popular on social media, TikTok. It's like started with like all the girls wanted the squat booty, but now it's like you're starting to see a lot of young kids, which is good.
Yeah.
But I hate to I don't want anything bad to happen. So I'll go ahead and say, let me say that. I'm not praying for the apocalypse. I'm not praying for this, but doesn't it kind of seem like something needs to happen to kick people into high gear?
Well, that's kind of where I was hoping that you were going to go to, because with what you have on the screen, the immigration, what's going on with everybody crossing the border and stuff, you've already mentioned it, that there are several high terroristic people that have entered the country, and something is definitely going to happen soon.
Yeah.
And one of the scarier things that I definitely wanted to bring to your attention, especially today, is two young men that go to the gym. I'm not going to give names because I don't want anybody to target them. But these two young men, one is 21 or 22, and the other one is 27. But they are of military age males that primarily deal with weapons and weapons tactics, and ask me 1,000,001 questions fairly often about military tactics and drills and stuff like that. You've definitely seen them before.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. And talking to these two young guys a couple of nights ago, they were asking me, how do I feel about the immigration laws and how President Biden has opened up the borders and stuff like that. And I was like, me being an old soldier combined with a conspiracy theorist and having served 21 plus years in the military.
Yeah. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You're a coincidence noticer.
I'll take that. I'll take that. But right now, to date, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm certain it's over 1 million immigrants that have entered the country within the last 2 years.
We've got it. We've actually got those stats.
Okay.
Actually, go to the it may be on here. This is something I wanted to get into. We actually have the stats on the
excellent
border